And we're live. Hey everybody, it's time for Ace Attorney. I don't know why I'm bothering to go into my
Whoa.
notes tab. I don't have any build for this one yet. I haven't done it. Continue. So, trying to remember what just happened. We just learned that Kazuma probably slipped and fell and died. But maybe not. It feels like
Like
there's
a
maybe more to it than
fucking
that.
bastard bitch man. I swear, if that's how they killed off fucking Ryu from Streets, I'm gonna lose it.
Why don't you
How
tell
could
us
he
now,
die from a
Miss
fall?
Pavlova?
He jumps into Light Fierce and eats stale bread.
Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She was so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her. And this is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it. Yes. And I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's precaution, really.
Hey, Molo guy.
And Europe did sort of just fuck the world with plague once. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So at that point, you thought it was safe to try and lure the kitten back again. By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator into the adjoining cabin. Dark always loved this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy, I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So the faint whistling that Kazuma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova, right? I do,
Yes,
Molo guy.
Steven got a new idea for this anime plot.
I got this new idea.
I got this idea for a new anime plot. Basically, there's this girl. Basically, there's this non-binary fox. They've got
just got
huge
like,
bazonkas.
massive bazonkas.
A real setup donkus. I wish I could. I need to take time someday
Just memorize
to
that.
memorize because it gets really good, and I know I can do it because one day there was a day where I just sat down and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of not knowing the name of the Magic the Gathering card, Azmarano Dicena Kuldakar. So I sat down and memorized Azmarano Dicena Kuldakar.
Like the time I remembered the alphabet backwards and it just sort of never went away.
Exactly. Now I can't wait until someday I need to come up with a name for a character, and I type in all of Azmarana Mardika Dicena Kuldakar.
Incredible. Cats have
Gonna
a
be
propensity
great.
to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... Thud.
Meow.
Thud. Oh,
Death.
that's probably not good. I nearly
Well,
passed
it already
out with
happened.
shock.
We know the result.
Yeah. I heard her cry out and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Kazuma was... From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Borea is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asagi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, a combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen. I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again. Gracious, that count is as insufferably less. Let me try that again. Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows
Oh, so
something
he
about
knows.
himself, at least.
He's aware.
When I woke this morning, I heard that the young man in the cabin next to mine had died. But I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what happened. So she's not the one that wrote in Russian, then. Although half a bell did end up in her trash can, which is weird.
In her wastebasket. Sholmes put it there. As the real murderer, he had access to the cabin.
Let me check something real quick. No, the bell was broke. I was thinking maybe like half of the bell was still on the thing, but it's broken. At the
No, it's
hook
the
part.
shit's broke.
Yeah. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Imagine sending a runaway back to their country because they brought a cat.
Right? It's kind of
Fucked up.
weird. Kind of goofy.
Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? Alright, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Lavlava, then whose is it and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship?
Look at that winning smile.
Hello, Beef.
Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Pirotsko. What?
What? What? A snake belongs to you?
He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here.
Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board.
We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend, without someone who understands?
Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? Sometimes no. But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake, surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in.
No venom.
Hmm?
How do you think I'm supposed to say this name?
Piroshko, maybe?
Piroshka?
Maybe.
Let's go with it.
Hold on.
Piroshka.
Let me pull up a Google
Pirosh-
Translate real quick.
Yeah, translate it.
I just typed trans
Yeah.
into Google. That didn't help me.
Listen. Only beasts are above deceit. Mankind can...
Mankind knew they could not. Okay, Russian, let's see.
Piroska.
Piroska, apparently.
Piroska. Piroska does not have venom. Piroska. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He is adorable like Granny.
Okay. It's venomous.
It's constrictor, yes. Now he hungry, so he in bad mood. But once I feed him, he will see big smile.
And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose?
Like they say they milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid, stupid stories with dumb authors who deserve to be dead.
Christ. They're really just doubling down on
I've
that.
already forgot what you told me to say this as.
Piroska, I think. Piroska.
Piroska. Piroska eat mouses, a big fat round mouse.
Ah. Oh, so... Is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for?
Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food?
I think so.
I'm
Top of the
surprised
food
he would
chain,
eat a
like
dead
the look
mouse.
in their eyes right now.
Don't a lot of snakes hate
Mm.
being given like dead animals as food? I thought that was common for snakes.
Sholmes
they
looks
just
real
go,
shook
"Eh,
right now. It refuses to drink milk, it can't hear a whistle, it can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role?
Dude, Sholmes is winning a lot of points with this anti-snake rhetoric.
You fucking hate snakes, dude. It's a pay on Piroshki. Let me click on this link really quick.
Which is
it's a Ukrainian
that looks
baked or
delicious.
fried yeast leaven boat-shaped buns with a variety of fillings.
Did you say braked?
I might have. Pyros.
Well, how do you pronounce it?
I assume pyros.
Pirashki.
Pyroski.
You're wrong. It's Pirashki,
Pirashki.
according to Google.
Okay.
So that must be Parashko.
Makes sense to me.
Parashko.
Pirashko.
I can even listen to it in slow.
Pirashki.
Parashko. It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Parashko has nothing to do with this incident.
So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. That still doesn't answer the question about the Russian on the floor, though. Susato, please say something.
Miss Pavlova.
Eh?
I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But I am going to throw you now. Oh no, Susanna! But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what circumstances, I cannot forgive you.
But
She pulls out a gun.
what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events, an accident.
Then who wrote in Russian on the floor? I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. Well, neither is Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. Well, neither does Mr. Sholmes.
Neither does he.
But even I can see that was not the truth.
Oh, did she actually kill him?
Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo?
To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it.
Ooh, let us press her statements here in this ship.
The court of the sea, the only court that matters. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh! I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. I have. Not again! When did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrist as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure.
You're going to jail!
If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. Oh, it's got like a star in the back of the uniform. That's cool. The truth about how you really died.
Cool.
About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo.
So then, shall we begin? Yes. Are we gonna do another one? What should we ponder first? Is the victim who lost his life in that cabin that was bolted from the inside? Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? A man tripped over the kitten that
Not
climbed
even
into his
close.
cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Hold it! Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take
I'm
shape now.
stupid.
There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. The writing. Yes!
Writing.
The truth is clearly
Yeah.
recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Asagi could have left this message on the floor. That script, it's Russian.
He died
isn't it?
instantly.
Yeah,
And he didn't know Russian.
it is. The word Russian means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language. Japanese in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast.
It is
That doesn't seem
not
likely. That doesn't seem likely, and also no, it isn't. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry, what do you mean? Exactly what I said
He
before.
died instantly, anyways.
There was no way that Mr. Asagi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae
He was
resulting in
fucking
instant
dead.
death. Instant death. Ugh. Which means after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead. Maybe the autopsy report is outdated.
Molokai! You...
They pull it on us one time.
Listen here, Molo guy. I don't like your tone.
If that is your real name.
That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asagi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true.
What? So Susato-san has noticed it too, then. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words,
Was it the bell?
I must have been, because there's nothing else here that makes sense. Why would the
Yeah,
bell have been there?
Because
Yes!
why would the bell have been there?
And why would she have the other half of it? This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. Well, that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already all knew all about that. It was broken in half. Nope, it was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. What? If that's really what happened,
Fatal Fury.
then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Oh.
Yes, remember what we found. That we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova?
Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence
Fucking
clearly
toss your
point to
ass
the
like a
same
pizza.
conclusion.
Deep dish crust.
That when Mr.
One
Asagi
hug
died
coming
last
up.
night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth. In order to cover up his or her own guilt. Kya!
Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asagi's.
Oh, that was Russian. I guess.
Is it me? You're
guess-
wasting time.
I guess so.
Someone else was there. Da, of course, we know this.
What are you talking about?
Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out.
Oh, yes.
And only one other person in cabin when young Stun died was you.
Yes! It's
Except
true,
shut
I
up,
was,
you dumbass.
I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I would have left that message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message. To be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying,
Dumbass.
the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor. In an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asagi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. A single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Nope. Hi. Seaman Stroganoff.
Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. Is this her dad?
I don't know.
2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal.
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when young Stun died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth.
What? Well, this is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure?
You're a great detective. You should know. Look truth in the eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Man, this bitch is gonna lose his mind when we dismantle this.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone.
Yeah, it sounds like her dad was a different sailor,
Different
I guess.
sailor, yeah.
He just knows her, probably.
Or you want to tell me Keller can walk through wall, locked doors? Yet it is not possible.
Ugh, he's right.
But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie a thread around door latches so they can opening. You're the one who told us this wouldn't work. What? So they can open and close them from outside. Like literally, she's the one
She
that
told
pulled out
us
her
that-
book the time
I went, no.
when we looked at it and went
Yeah.
no.
I don't
What?
know.
All right. Anyways, Fred, are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors.
Certainly not. These are watertight doors as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight. No threads or needles or magnets could have been used.
No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Hart,
No, I was wrong then, and you told me I was wrong. Susanto-san, how could you shift it onto me like that?
I mean, he's the dumbass, not me.
He's stupid, not me. You belong on this ship. So Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily.
What?
I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. escape. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside. One way does spring to mind, yes.
You really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed
True.
we have. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin bolt across from the outside. Boop, 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 boop.
Yes!
Yes! Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over?
That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Hey, Blood Adept.
Hello.
That's right, it's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the whole ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over.
Yeah, I believe. Yes, that's what's known as the force of inertia acting on objects.
Is there nothing Susato-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door.
Ah,
It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello? Is anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance! Oh, that sounds like...
it was Hosonaga who was
Oh,
shouting.
right. I got it wrong last time, too.
Yeah, I know.
I was doing my Sherlock Holmes impression. How did it sound?
It wasn't really good, did you? Were you fooled?
I got you.
Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door.
Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that.
Are you trying to say that last night,
Inertia?
after Mr. Asagi was killed,
That's what he said.
Ooh, look at this advanced technology. Yeah.
the SS Borea made another...
No, that's not your voice.
The SS Borea made another emergency stop.
That's also why that guy didn't write it down in his notes, because he is in on it.
Yeah. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelf had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over.
Oh yes, I remember that. And then I stood them all up again, didn't I?
Then when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asagi's cabin.
Oh my.
Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova?
Are you out of your mind? You say Borea made emergency stop.
It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room.
I mean, you click a button on the wall,
Oh,
my guy.
it's simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm.
Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there? Telling you to only press the button in times of emergency. Susanoo has no knowledge of this.
On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button One is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity.
It know nothing. I can't read this, by the way, because up there it is. Wait, it was you?
When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings and the vessel comes to a complete stop.
Oh, he pressed it?
As indeed it did a little earlier today.
He pressed it earlier today, didn't he?
Oh, I see.
Mr. Sholmes. Surely it wasn't you who...
As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion.
He sounds almost
Now
proud
this
of
is going to be a
himself.
real deep cut because I barely remember the context. But this reminds me a lot of... There's like a... I want to say it's a Beatles animated movie thing? Like Yellow Submarine? And in it, the only thing we had this on like DVD. I've never looked into it, so I don't remember much about it. But I remember we had it on like DVD or VHS or something when I was a kid, and we watched it. This like Beatles animated thing, featuring the Beatles. And the only thing I remember, yeah, Yellow Submarine. The only thing I remember from it is at one point, one of the Beatles, I don't remember who. I hope it was Ringo, because that's the funniest. Pull the lever and something like bad starts happening, and everyone's like, why did you pull the lever? And he's like, you can't help it, I was born to be a lever puller.
I think I actually know what you're talking about.
And that's
It was
the
Paul,
only fucking
apparently.
thing that I retained from that. It was Paul? Was Paul the one?
Incredible.
Did Paul... Hang on one sec. I have to... Now that this has surfaced again, I have to capitalize on it. I was born to be a lever puller. I auto-completed it.
Pardon me.
It looks like it... I think that's Paul. It's hard to say. It's a very stylized cartoon. In the
born to be a
Beatles
lever
film
puller.
Yellow Submarine, Ringo's... Oh no, it was Ringo! I was right! It was Ringo! I knew it was fucking Ringo! You know that shit was Ringo! r/movie details posted 2 years ago. In the Beatles film Yellow Submarine 1968, Ringo is told not to pull a lever, but does so anyway, replying, "Can't help it, I'm a born lever puller," which sounds like I'm a born Liverpooler.
Oh, that's a fun joke.
I knew it was fucking Ringo! I'm glad Blood Adept corrected themselves, but for a brief moment, Blood Adept had me being like, oh, really? It was Paul? I was really hoping it was Ringo. It was fucking Ringo!
Got him.
I don't know why that's the only thing that stuck with me, but it is. It's just
It happens
fucking
sometimes.
Ringo being like, can't help it, I was born Liverpool. And that reminded me of this one, with the pushing the button.
Just buttons.
No,
are
it's
meant to be
okay, Blood
pushed.
Adept. Honestly, I just said it was Ringo because Ringo's the funniest of the members of the Beatles, and so I was
True.
mostly hoping it was him. It's not like I actually remembered, really. I was just like, he is kind of the meme guy of the Beatles. But anyways, I'm just glad that both Boko and Blood Adept recall
Knew
this
what you were
movie too,
talking
and it's
about.
not just to me. Because I was like, this is like a random thing. Because it's like a fucking 19... I don't know why we had Yellow Submarine, the 1968 animated movie, when I was a kid, but we did. Also, if you ever watch it, it's a real trip. It's like a real fever dreamy kind of thing. Anyways, how dare you mess with ship? I report you to cabin. You are in much trouble now.
Now, I'm sure all that can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide closed. So, what we must now consider...
Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Parents probably like the Beatles. I don't know if my dad likes the Beatles. I know he likes Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash, but I don't know anything else about... I don't know if my dad has ever recreationally listened to music. You know what I mean?
Instead of just like coincidentally for like just driving. Or is your
Yeah.
dad or does your dad drive in complete silence like a psychopath?
He'll often drive with AM radio on.
Oh God.
I know. Well, you see, my dad's an old man, so he does things like when he has free time, he browses Craigslist for like just stuff. I know because he'll show it to me. He'll be like, "Look at this lawnmower," and I'm like, "What?"
Do you need a new lawnmower,
But-
father?
But then once in a while he'll do like a crazy shit, right? Well, he'll be like I'll be talking about Led Zeppelin and like the song Kashmir, and he'll be like, "Oh, I would like that song." I'm like, "You liked Led Zeppelin? Of all things? Father?" Good taste though, by the way. Good taste that. I saw it once, it was had weirder than standard night terrors for a month. Yeah. I didn't see much of a crossover between Beatles and Willie Nelson. He is the true AM radio? I know, right? Speaking of driving like a psychopath, mom claims that you shouldn't always listen to stuff because it drowns out the voice of God.
Does the voice of God
That's
sound
exactly
like
what-
your car driving on blacktop? Because that's fucking... Nobody was able to listen to that until like the 1920s or whatever.
Even then, it was probably cars driving on cobblestones.
Yeah, like what the fuck is she on about?
AM radio? I also know my dad really likes the song, that song that's about the cat in the cradle and the silver spoon, Little
Yeah.
Boy Blue and the Man in the Moon. He likes that song a lot, but the thing that always got me was the fact that that song is about a man who never has time for his son, and so the son grows up to never have time for his father. You know what I mean? It's like a sad.
Somewhat ironic, perhaps.
Right, and my dad would always like. Wait, I remember I have a vivid memory of my dad and I driving in the car. Well, he was driving, I was riding, and the
Right.
song was on. And he, when the line comes up where the guy realizes that his son has grown up just like him, he, the lyrics are like, "My boy was just like me," and my dad like had like a nice, like a really proud smile on his face and like clapped me on the shoulder, and it was nice. But the rest of me was going, "Dad, you do realize what the meaning of the song is, right?"
You realize that's a bad thing in this context, right?
In this song, it's bad that he ends up like his father because it's a story of making time for the ones who matter. It's very Cats in the Cradle, that's the name. I can never remember the name of the song. No, the full song. Never. Oh, one last thing before I continue. One last story that's surfaced. I also remember that my dad really likes the song. Is it just called American Pie? It's
Yeah.
the Day the Music Died, right? Is the name of the
No,
song?
it's American Pie, I'm pretty sure. By
Is it American Pie?
somebody.
Well, whatever.
Was that a one-hit wonder band?
That
I don't
song.
remember.
Well, I think it was just a guy. I don't think it was even a
Well,
band.
yeah.
So
Don McLean.
Don McLean. Is it called just American Pie?
Yes.
It's American Pie. Okay, my brain said American Pie, then the rest of my brain said no, that's a movie,
It is a movie.
which it is also a movie. Yes. But anyways, at one point I remember that song. Oh, I think I was trying to show my dad that Caleb had put music on my Zune, which he downloaded from LimeWire, and so Caleb, in this context, my older brother is named Caleb. Don't
Right.
dox him. But my older brother put this music on my Zune, and one of them, because I liked Weird Al, so he put a bunch of Weird Al songs on there, and one of them was Weird Al's Star Wars parody
Star Wars, yeah.
of American Pie. And I was playing it for my dad, and he was visibly disgusted by it because he was mad. He's like, that's a really good song. I can't believe you ruined it with this parody lyrics. And I still have never forgotten that my dad was upset about the Weird Al Star Wars parody of American Pie. Also, holy shit, Chad, it's moving too fast. I need to catch up. Give me 1 second.
If we spend all night with you responding to chat, we're not gonna get to the video, Josh.
Just fuck off, Steven. We do a million fucking bonus streams. You can't let me have 5 minutes?
No.
Fuck.
I
I hate the
cracked
voice
the
of God.
whip.
Let the voice
Wachow.
say it. Old Man Blue. Because if you're distracted, you can't land your conscious. Cats in the Cradle. The Cats in the Cradle. I remember our church using the song over the birth of new children. That's really fucking weird. It's by Ugly Kid Joe, which is an artist name. One More Thing, which is a Columbo reference. I noticed it. My American guy drove a Chevy 11, but the 11 was dry. John something. Okay, almost said John McClane, which is the name of the main character from Die Hard.
It is that.
Josh is now Uncle from Jackie Chan Adventures. It is always funny to me because as an avid watcher of both Columbo and Jackie Chan Adventures, I can reference One More Thing to mean two different people, depending on the mood I'm in. Anakin guy, maybe Vader someday later, now he's just a small fry. The saga begins. That's the name of the song. I never remember the name of the song. It's my kryptonite. It's a really, really good song. We can't let Josh have 5 minutes. Contractually speaking, Boko requires us to keep you on task. Alright, fine. I'm done. I've read chat. Are you happy now? I'm happy now. Last night after what happened with Mr. Oski. Did this ship make an emergency stop or did it?
Shut up, Boko!
One more thing. I always loved that guy. You are idiots. Fury has a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop even in the middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere.
What are your thoughts, Mr.
Well, he does
Naruhodo?
cast spells.
There is magic in that show, like straight up. That's what the talismans do.
He does the Yumo Gwagi Fairy Zao or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Uncle literally casts spells.
Which doesn't that
does, like, a
translate
chant.
to roughly I am casting a spell or some shit?
Yeah,
I seem to remember it translating very literally.
That
Well-
was voodoo. That was literal witchcraft. Voodoo.
It's certainly possible that some
I
kind
would
of
argue
emergency
that
happened
voodoo
last
and
night.
witchcraft are not that different.
Colloquially, no. We have evidence to support that idea.
Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruto?
Fascinating. Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night? The log. There were no entries from 2 a.m. until early this morning. Yes! Yes! Seaman Stroganoff. It's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right?
Yeah, they weren't good spells, but it was still a spell. If I was a wizard and my only ability was to clean up myself after I'd shit my pants, it would still be magic, even if it's really stupid magic.
It's really dumb
That's still a
magic.
magical thing. It's dumb garbage baby magic for stupid babies that piss and shit themselves. But you want to talk about the wizards shitting themselves again? You want to bring
No.
up that? You want to retread that?
No, I think
could
we've-
at any
We've
time.
done it so many times, Josh.
I'm never gonna be over it in my entire life. You know? I'm just not. Because it was so unnecessarily stupid, you know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with stupid, but like, it was stupid in such a weird way because she didn't need to say anything about how the wizard shit. You know what I mean?
Right?
It's not like people were clamoring to know about the wizard shit. Or were they?
Have
I
wizards
doubt it.
evolved to not shit? The answer is no. The answer
Da,
is
that
even
is
stupider
correct.
than
Why?
no. And the ship's log here. This would be where you record the details of your duties.
What are you doing with that? That is mine.
You rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later.
Left it there on purpose. That is where I always put it.
The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase nothing to report every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log.
It is. Duh! Because nothing happened.
But if nothing happened, you would normally write nothing to report, wouldn't you?
Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Borea. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact.
Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night? Stop talking rubbish!
If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself.
Oh? Why?
Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed.
Oh my god, it really
That's
was.
very
They just
true.
all fucking hit their heads after the emergency
They all
stop.
bonked their heads and forgot. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night.
Well, no, that's a good point.
What of the throbbing?
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
Your head, man.
Jones, you can't just say what of the throbbing.
The throbbing in
dumb
your head since this
bastard,
morning.
man.
We've all suffered with it.
I want to commend you, Steven, for not cracking immediately as you
The
had to read the
throbbing.
line, what of the
What
of
of
the throbbing?
The throbbing. Mm.
Because I would. Are you quite aware of the throbbing? I didn't get to read that. No, you bastard. Ah, there.
Oh yes, I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today.
Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn.
Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected.
He's right, my head's been throbbing today too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. Oh, they were drugged.
They were drugged. I was gonna bring this up at some point, but I was pretty sure it was drugs, if not the head bonk theory. But I was really hoping it was the head bonk theory.
Head bonk would have been much funnier. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head.
That means it was premeditated, though, if they were all drugged.
Yeah.
Unless it was like an accidental poisoning or something.
Yeah, I had already been dragged out of the wardrobe. And had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all this was happening to me?
Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you?
Oh, well, yes. Sorry.
The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on?
Ah, well, Cosimo looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals.
So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it?
Yes, in fact, I had all of it. That Cosimo wasn't fond of chicken.
Oh, Cosmo wasn't drugged.
Oh my god.
Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all?
That's right, he didn't touch it. Is that relevant?
My dear fellow, does that not strike you?
Oh. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken?
I do.
No, really? Is that really true?
The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it.
A sleeping drug.
Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop?
Mr. Onoda, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes mean. What a far-fetched idea.
Precisely. Placing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What?
This is the plot to Airplane. I mean, kind of, except the,
It's not.
the fish was less drugged and more it was bad fish, though.
It was bad fish.
Remember the bad fish?
Well, seaman.
Which everyone happens to have had. Throbbing head, well, seaman?
Well, seaman. What about your throbbing
Ah.
head?
If only I was more enterprising, I could soundbite you saying all of these different things.
You could just ask me to say it later and I'd do it.
Oh yeah. You know I forget about that option.
You forget that I'm also a clown.
I forget you're a person I can interact with. Ugh.
I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over to the coals. Over the coals. That makes more sense. For aiding and abetting a renegade.
Oh my god.
Well, didn't we theorize at
coming
one
back?
point that they did the emergency stop? Wait, what's coming back?
Is the
Music?
I'm trying to is the renegade her, or are they saying that that dude that we read about is actually also on the ship? And that's what the
He might
emergency
be.
stop was about, maybe.
Well, didn't we say that maybe she got on during the emergency stop?
That's what I thought.
Please, no more. I will tell everything.
Yeah.
I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me.
We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame and ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel.
I don't believe it.
You're right, we put sleeping drug in chicken last night.
Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point.
Duh, we could not make all drug. How do you say? Dissolve.
Ugh, talk about heavy seasoning.
Snake tan lines. At midnight in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat.
Well, all the passengers of the SS Boreas slept soundly. Thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained.
So if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who dislike chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you, which is a way to read that sentence. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door.
But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would end up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What?
Most people would just
Ah,
go,
of
huh, I
course.
locked the door.
Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug.
Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night.
Yes.
The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway, and so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning.
True, I definitely would have.
Summary, same. In order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning.
You have talked a long time and said many things. What is the point?
The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night.
But... I don't know about any of this. I'm just a little girl.
You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories we don't believe. Sailors like me, we only trust what we see with our eyes.
A laudable trait.
What?
I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Norhadow.
Oh, yes?
Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind?
What accusatory cry of guilt?
Sorry, you've lost me.
Proof of involvement, man, but you can't hear such a call with your ears. No, you must hear it with your eyes, for observation is the basis of all deduction.
What are you talking about?
I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth.
There's a third.
Yeah, I'm guessing there just is no trial for this. I think it's all just figuring this out.
So, Mr. Norhadow, your assistance, if you please.
With what exactly, Mr. Sholmes?
With observation, my dear fellow, just as I said, of these two prevaricators.
Observation?
If you remember, Mr. Naruto, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asugi's death.
Is one of them just gonna have
What
fucking
we're
ink
looking
on their
for is
fingers?
a trace of evidence of that one of these two was there when it happened.
Precisely. You are delightfully quick to grasp my meaning.
Alright, I'll see what I can see. So we're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when Kazuma died. What a spin. What is that? Ah, is that ink? Or is that just a pixel?
And it's hard to make out on my end because of the
it's just
artifacting.
I think it's just a pixel. Oh, okay.
There it is.
There it is. Yes! Ink stain.
It was not very hard to notice.
Seaman Stroganoff, you seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there.
Yeah. Yes, I don't know where the dirt comes from.
So, nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain.
What are you trying to say?
It would appear the significance of this stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow us to make it plain.
It's a very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Stroganoff's uniform.
Sorry, just the way that you said stain and then semen in rapid succession.
Stain, Seaman. Yes.
Stain, semen? Yes, quite.
Very good. Yes, of
I
course.
think what made it is clear.
Indeed it is. So, Mr. Naruto, present the evidence that proves it.
My pleasure. Alright then, the evidence that proves what the stain on the back of Seaman Stroganoff's uniform really is. It's, do we have a picture of the purple ink, or it's just, I guess just this? I guess it's just this.
Yes!
Yes! That's a really cool effect. Yes, it's this
Yeah, it is
photograph and
good.
the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform.
Ink.
A rather unusual color of ink, purple.
Ah,
Ah, the penny drops at last. Now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. And the stain on the back of your uniform is ink of exactly the same... Nope, that's... And the stain on the back of your uniform is ink of exactly the same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't possibly have stained your uniform in that way. Which means... you must have been present in the cabin in the moments immediately after the ink was spilt.
Alright, yes. It was me, I did it. Everything.
Okay?
I arranged everything in Dead Student's cabin to make it look like Wardrobe Man did it. Then I pressed button to make Beria do emergency stop and bolt cabin door shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel.
Beef, please.
Don't worry, Angel. Let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty patrolling passageway. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet.
Beef, please, you must help me.
I went with her. The door to cabin number 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw student boy on floor. He was dead like lobster on mountain. What happened here?
Please, don't tell anyone. My little one. My little furry friend.
Everything what happened in cabin is like Angel told you.
The kitten escaped through the ventilator into Mr. Asagi's cabin. Then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell on the floor.
Yes, that is right.
So after the incident when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers.
Only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor.
Instead, she was worried when she heard sound of something falling on the floor. That's when she went to look. No, Angel. The door was not locked. So when she opened to look and... you already know what happened after. There's just one thing, if you wouldn't mind. What? When you went to Miss Josky's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead?
Why?
I already told you. When Nina opened the door of Student's cabin and looked inside, I was asking Miss Pavlova.
Shit, dude. Well, Miss Pavlova.
Duh.
Oh,
Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared.
I understand. And I believe you.
So is that finally it now? Have we discovered the real truth about Kazuma's death at last?
Ah,
No.
something very nearly slipped my mind.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes?
This photograph. Yes, I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck, therefore the victim died instantly. The unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there is one particular area in this photograph that seems to me somewhat unnatural.
What do you mean, unnatural?
What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo?
Hmm? Oh, well... If Cosmo tripped and fell, and by some terrible stroke of bad luck broke his neck. Which part of this photographic print seems unnatural? That he landed face down? I guess? If he had slipped backward and cracked his head, I think it's more likely to break your neck than hitting yourself in the fucking forehead, right? I don't actually know. I'm curious. Because, like, I don't know what else it would be.
Shoulder straps?
Shoulder straps.
Well, no, that's his headband.
That's his headband. I don't
It's not just something dumb like the fact that the ink was written with his finger, right?
Yeah, I mean, clearly...
I think we've already been over that.
Yeah. We already know that he rearranged the crime scene, so I guess the fact that he landed face down would be something... I don't know.
Yes!
Yes? It must be here, surely. No. Allow me to offer you a piece of advice regarding the pursuit of detection, my dear fellow. When noting a crucial point, it can be helpful to keep your eyes open. They were open. And
unlikely.
it can be equally helpful to use them. Sorry. I'll try that. Well.
Alright, hang on. I think it's plain what Mr. Sholmes meant by unnatural, isn't it? The word written out in a foreign language underneath his fingertips, surely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it
was the word.
That particularly crass detail was orchestrated by the culprit. No, I mean to identify another point. Can I get a hint?
It was
Imagine, if you will, losing your footing yourself. Would you land as the victim has? What of your hands? Oh, his hands were closed. Or one of his hands was closed. You look like the sort of fellow who stumbles with some regularity. This should be an easy task. Why do I? Okay, well, I guess his hands. I don't know why his hand would have landed closed. Maybe he's holding something.
Yes!
Yes! Alright, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then this fist just doesn't seem quite right.
He'd have an open palm to
Yeah.
stop himself, I guess.
Yeah. The exact
That
same
is what
thought
people
occurred
usually
to
do.
me. Yeah, that's what I do when I fall.
Alright, I'm
often.
glad they gave us a hint because I would not
I
have
wasn't
thought
sure.
that part through. Well, I mean, it's kind of difficult because
It
we
makes
don't
sense
know
once
how
they talk
much
it
of the.
through, but yeah.
Well, no. The thing is, like, most of the crime was staged. We know that already.
Yeah.
So, like, why would the position of his hand not be up to question? It could have just randomly curled into a fist when they were dragging him around or whatever.
The exact same thought occurred to me. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled into a fist. Almost, you might say. As though he were gripping something.
You were gripping something. What do you mean?
Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago. You did? And what, pray, do you imagine I found there, my dear fellow?
Cash, money, thousands of rubles.
Many
Mr.
rubles.
Sholmes, show us, please.
Why, of course, my dear madam. Would I keep you in suspense? Yes.
Yes.
This is what I found. Oh shit, it's her other
it's one
earring.
of her necklaces. Yeah, or I mean earring. I thought earring
Yeah.
and said the word necklace somehow. Like a clown. Like an
Like a
entire
fool.
fucking circus. Like a jester. Oh, a crescent moon with a little gemstone in the middle.
Yes, you're right, a crescent moon. It's very pretty, but what does it tell us?
It tells us nothing.
I'm not so sure. That crescent moon looks... It looks familiar somehow. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere before.
Maybe you have.
Observation, Mr. Narhado, that is the key. What? The truth is now tantalizingly close. How did that crescent moon come to be in Cosmo's clenched fist? This is the final clue, the last piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, what does this little crescent moon mean? What significance has it? And observe, find the answer with your own eyes. Spin, 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 spin. It's broken. Well, where did it come from is the question. So right here is the right ear is the question, is the answer.
Yes!
Yes!
Yeah, the broken one.
Miss Pavlova, I noticed that on your ear. Even though you have a metal earring, the decorative part of it seems to be missing. The little link holding it on must have broken, I suppose.
Eh? What?
But looking at your other ear, I notice a crescent moon. Oh,
I don't believe it.
Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly, there's only one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo?
yes. Miss Pavlova, Mr. Oski must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear. Perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. Gah. In other words, last night in Mr. Oski's cabin, you witnessed the moment when the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length from him. But then the question is, why did Mr. Asagi do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and hold it with his clenched fist during his final moments? Oh no.
Angel?
No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova, tell us the truth. Last night, what did you do to Kazuma? Ugh. She just exploded.
When I think about everything that happened yesterday, it was too much. Running away with a fishing boat in the middle of the night, trying to climb onto this huge ship. And then, when I was at last in this cabin and I could relax after this horrible long day.
Darka, wait!
I couldn't believe it when she disappeared through the ventilator. I tried to call her with a little whistle. I tried waving her favorite toy. But nothing worked. Darka would not come back.
Knock, knock. Look. No, this is you.
Ah, I forgot. What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector?
Ah, look at him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, it's me, Ryu from Streets in a flashback. I thought it was a friend of mine. What, did
The young
Cosmo
man
know
from
who
your
she was
country.
because of the newspaper?
That's my guess.
He was very polite and kind. He helped me to find Darka, and he promised not to tell anyone. But then, when I had my friend in my arms again, and I was going to leave the man's cabin,
Just a moment. Sorry, but... Damn it, Cosmo, you idiot.
Yes?
I'm sure I know your face. I've seen you somewhere before.
Ah,
Of course. You're Nikolina Pavlova, aren't you? The Russian ballerina.
huh? No, I don't know that name. My heart nearly stopped when he said that. He knew who I was. How could this man from a land in the faraway east know a Russian ballerina?
Yes, I saw your performance in Japan. The beauty of the ballet made a deep impression on me. But, what are you doing on this ship? I'm sure I read that your ballet company was performing in Shanghai at the moment.
I can't fool him. I have to tell him the truth and hope he doesn't tell anyone. I have no other choice.
I see. So you've run away.
Please, please keep my secret. Don't tell anyone.
Give me a moment, I could use another opinion here.
oh.
He's going to pull that cord. He's
No.
going to tell the captain. Why did
He
I
was
think I
gonna
could
open the
trust him?
wardrobe.
Oh, he was gonna open the wardrobe.
He's gonna be like, my good friend.
Then it happened, everything at once. It was only a second, but it felt like forever. Wait, I shouted, and then... Meow! Dorka jumped out of my arms and down to the young man's feet. And... as he turned around to look at me... Oh! I pushed him. I don't even know why. I don't know why I did it. I was just so scared. And I had to stop him from telling anyone about me.
You dumb bitch. He was gonna open the wardrobe.
And that's when you went to fetch help from Seaman Stroganoff, who was on duty in the passageway.
I heard Nina cry out and thud on the floor, so I ran to her. She was standing at cabin door, shaking like a leaf. She looked at me and said,
Help me, Biff. If they find out, I will be... Please, I have nowhere to go.
So you decided to help, and that's when you arranged things in Cosmo's cabin to make it look like I did it, so that no one would suspect the passenger in the cabin next door.
yes. I went into cabin. I looked around to make sure there was nothing to show Nina was there. And then I found the stowaway in the wardrobe, still sleeping.
Right, that's when he found me.
So you worked out a plan to lay the blame on the stowaway. I closed wardrobe doors and put up strange paper sign.
Luckily for me, that's the only reason Susato-san started to believe me when I said I was innocent.
I dragged young man's body to good place and used ink that was spilling to write on floor. I wrote that so that person who'd found him would look inside wardrobe to find stowaway.
And tell me, what of the glass bell? It was by my feet, so I picked it up. I see. But it was dark in the cabin. I didn't notice the other half.
Then Angel went back to the cabin and I finished job.
By pressing the emergency alarm button in the passageway?
Yes.
Accordingly,
All
the
because
SS
she
Boreal-
thought he was gonna open the cord.
Yep.
Or he was gonna pull the cord when he was gonna be like, Ryunosuke!
Ryunosuke, why won't
Wake
you
up.
wake up?
Ryunosuke,
the SS
please, I
Boreal
need your opinion about turning in a ballerina.
Accordingly, the SS Borea did indeed come to an emergency halt a little after 2 a.m., thus enticing the bolt on the cabin door to slide shut, creating the locked room mystery.
There's still one thing I don't understand, Miss Pavlova.
What?
Well, you said that you told Cosmo about the fact that you run away from your homeland, and it's because you were worried he was going to tell the captain that you pushed him. Isn't that right?
Yes.
But even if he had pulled the bell cord and called for the captain of the ship, aren't you friends with every
He would've
member
been
of the
sleeping.
crew?
Oh yeah.
Why would that have been a problem?
It was what he said first. That made me scared.
What he said first.
What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector?
Oh.
It's Hosanaga's fault! Oh, I'm sorry. Ryunosuke, how ethically bad is it to ask this ballerina to... Oh. You almost tricked me with that one, Blood Adept, you son of a bitch.
Not canon.
Not canon. I stopped it. I will read Mola guys though. Let me discuss this with my closeted boy toy.
He said an inspector was his friend.
Ah, yes, meaning me, who was supposed to be acting as his bodyguard.
I thought that if police knew about me, they would arrest me.
Japanese police.
So before he could pull the bell cord, I...
May I stop you a moment, please, Miss Pavlova? It just doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, was Mr. Asagi really going to pull the bell cord? I don't know.
What?
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I'm not Kazuma, so I can't know for certain, but he was a man of his word. If he told you he wouldn't give your secret away, then he wouldn't have done.
No, he was walking over to it. He was going to pull the cord. He was going to make them send me back. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, the day's work is not yet done, it seems. There is one more deduction to make.
What? Another deduction?
We already know the
Yes,
answer to
what
this
action
one.
was the victim really about to take at that moment?
Aw. Not his theme music.
Can we determine whether the young man's gaze was directed?
This is a flashback. I don't know how this is supposed to work.
First, consider the victim's location within his cabin.
That's easy. I remember every detail of that room. I mean, yes, I spent quite a lot of time in the wardrobe, but still. That cabin has been my home for this entire voyage.
So this is how the cabin looked last night when Miss Pavlova visited Kazuma-sama.
Yes, it's exactly how it was.
Are you ready then, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes. If there's one thing I've learned today, it's that a simple gaze can reveal all manner of truths. And not only that, in order to draw the right conclusion, you can't afford to be out by even a little bit when you're following the gaze to where it lands. So, when he turned away from Miss Pavlova, what exactly was Kazuma looking at?
Cabin. Wardrobe.
I clicked the wardrobe. My wardrobe. I was there at the time, of course, sleeping soundly. Too soundly. If only I hadn't eaten that chicken that was laced with the sleeping drug. If only he'd woken me up. Then maybe this tragedy would never have happened.
Take that!
Take that! Considering everything that had happened last night, certainly it might have looked as though Kazuma was going to ring the bell cord.
Yes, however, what is directly beside the bell cord? The wardrobe.
The wardrobe?
And more importantly, what was inside the wardrobe? The man's great friend, sleeping soundly.
Ah,
Miss Pavlova, please think back very carefully. What were Mr. Asagi's exact words last night? Give me a moment, I could use another opinion here.
another opinion. Narnia. He was going to Narnia to ask fucking Tibbs or whatever.
Aslan, my good chum.
My good friend
Lion
Aslan.
Jesus. Aslan, I
Yes,
need
but-
your opinion about the moral quandary I find myself embroiled in.
Yes, but not from a member of the crew. No, Mr. Asagi intended to consult his close friend on the matter. To see if between them they might be able to help in some way, no doubt.
Timms? Was it Mr. Mr. Tumnus? That's his name. That's the one. I don't know why I said Mr. Timms. Listen, we can't all be batting 100 all the time.
He's got the Tims, dude.
Also,
He's got
batting
the
1,000 is the
Timberlakes.
phrase. Batting 100 would actually be quite bad.
Better be really bad. We can't all be batting 100. It's fine, Steven. A great friend of mine once said that.
Oh no.
Sadly, we can't know the truth for certain now. It's too late for that. But I wish you had made... Boker, alright, listen, Boker, I put up a lot with a lot of your shenanigans. But you are mostly wrong about a lot of things, okay?
That's true.
Okay? That's just true. I know that you play it off like you're not wrong about anything. But you are. I won't stand for these lies. But I wish you had made sure of what Mr. Asagi was looking at. Before you know, you manslaughtered him. Things may have ended very differently if you had. And
Miss
then,
Pavlova, I want to thank you for finally admitting the truth. But unfortunately, the truth is a man lost his life because of what you did, and that will never change. I hope you'll never forget that. I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry. What have I done?
and then very quietly, Susato walks up behind her and judo throws her into the ground,
And so at
snapping
long
her
last,
neck instantly.
The mystery surrounding
And then
the
goes,
tragic
"Oh,
accident
no."
on the SS Borea was finally laid to rest. International waters.
I don't think they.
Well, they're not in international
I don't think they
waters.
were.
They're
They're
like
not.
about to port
They're like-
in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
9th January, 7:14 p.m. SS Borea, first class cabin
Also-
passageway.
Also, the international waters doesn't mean that no one can try you for crimes. It just means they have to determine. You can't like kill a man at sea and be like, "Aha, lol, Mao." It just
they'll
means they
just-
have to determine what jurisdiction to charge you in, which will probably be either your or the person you killed's, like,
Right.
home country.
What will happen to Miss Pavlova now then? Once we reach
It
Great
doesn't mean
Britain,
crime
we
is
have to-
legal now, just because it's in international waters. It just
Did you
makes
know
it
the
more
ocean-
annoying.
Did you know the ocean is the purge all the time? The forever purge, some might
Dude,
say.
the forever purge is code for the ocean. Oh my
God.
fucking god. Holy shit. I can't believe that.
Once we reach Great Britain, she'll be handed over to the British police at Scotland Yard. What about the fact that she ran away from Russia? Won't the Russians try to repatriate her? Apparently, the English detective can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Mr. Sholmes can do that? So she won't be going back to Russia then? No,
It was about
I don't think
1900.
so. Even if
Now, I
she-
will confess, I have no idea what the law was like back in 1900s. Like,
neither,
at
dude.
all. But I argue in a case like this, they wouldn't just be like, well, no one can try her.
She committed the crime at sea. No one can possibly do anything about it.
Now, if you
You-
commit a crime in space, who tries you then?
That's the question. Who has jurisdiction of space?
Ooh, we can get her deported to Japan. What if she gets tried in Japan and gets life? Then she's out of Russia and she's
I think
halfway to her goal.
I think they're planning on doing that, but in England. Even if she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. She ran away, so now she's in exile for life. I see.
I'm sorry.
I love that his uniform is, like, way too small. Seaman Stroganoff?
There's agreement about space jurisdiction. I know that too. It's really just a matter of how difficult it is to get the trial underway. Frankly, it's kind of like if you kill someone on the border of a state, they might have to be like, wait, who's gonna do this one? I wanted to help an angel, no matter what.
In space,
Article
no one can
8
hear you
of the
commit first-degree
1967
murder.
Outer Space Treaty. A state party to the treaty on whose registry an object launched into outer space is carried shall retain jurisdiction and control over such object and any personnel thereof while in outer space or on a celestial body. Yeah, that's about what I figured.
Basically, it's whoever.
I know there's also-
whoever put it there.
You know what's really funny, though, is that a lot of stuff out in space is treated a lot like the ocean in terms of, like, the fact that everyone, technically, under like current law, anyone can benefit from space, just like anyone can benefit from the ocean, but no one really owns it.
Incredible.
You know what I mean? Like, you can technically, if you could go out and mine space. But
It's just
you know.
impossible to do that right now because science.
Which really makes the ISS a head scratcher because it was constructed by multiple nations. Oh no. I kill a man on the ISS. I'm charged in 12 countries at once.
Oh no.
Because you have to be judged by jury of your peers, and there are no peers out there.
That's
see,
true.
that's the thing though, it's one of those things where it's like, well, obviously they would just say, well, it's gonna be these people. You know. The law is really flexible, more than people think.
When it wants
What
to
they
be.
didn't think about. When it wants to be. It depends. What they didn't think about you, about how you lost good friend. I will go, Nina. I will give myself to British police.
That's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Kazuma's death feels like such a waste, but...
It is! He died for nothing.
well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you?
He died because a 15-year-old ballerina pushed him.
Well, I'm afraid you need to pack now. We're due to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. As much as it pains me, I'm going to have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan.
Yes. I did stow away, after all. I couldn't really expect any different.
But now they're
So,
short an
you should
exchange
get back to your-
student.
So you should go back to your cabin now.
It looks like my study tour to Great Britain is over before it even begun then. To think that only days ago, Kazuma and I were laughing together about how we'd tear up the streets of London. That seems like a distant memory now. Oh, what's that? Is it someone weeping? Oh.
Hey, Susato. Are you having a good time?
Susato-san?
Naruto-san, I didn't know you had returned.
Oh, well, I haven't been back long. Inspector Hosonaga just told me I should pack, you know, ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that.
Well, it's Kazuma's sword,
Aw.
everyone. Calm down. It's not... She's not doing anything with the sword. It's Kazuma... I swear to
It's
God,
Kazuma's
chat.
sword, guys, come
It's
on.
Kazuma... I'm gonna scream. She's
Well,
gonna kill
Naruhodo,
us.
well, first of all, Blooded Depth, Naruhodo
Where,
is
Naruhodo?
still alive.
God dang it, chat. Bunch of clowns. Anyways. I still can't believe this has happened. I can't believe someone's life can be over. Just like that.
Susato-san.
Where Ryunosuke?
So Naruhodo and Ryunosuke are the same person.
It's us!
They've said Kazuma so many times.
Great banter. He had such grand ideas for this visit to Great Britain. So many dreams. Now they've been cruelly taken away. Just as he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible. But now we know the truth. It was just an accident. Just a silly series of mishaps. It's too much, Naruhodo-san. It's just too much.
Yes, I know. I wish there was something I could say. Damn it. Did you like my impression? Did you like my impression?
Did it make you laugh?
My duty was to see Arsigi-san safely to Great Britain. But I failed, and caused his two closest friends great pain.
She gonna apologize for all the shoulder throws now? Definitely not.
I've let everyone down. And I will do anything to make up for my terrible blunder.
Nobody blames you, Inspector. And I'm free again now, at least. Huh?
Got him!
Surprise,
Eat
Mr.
shit,
Naruto! What is the meaning of this?
Oh, a trifling matter. Simply that in my head I think I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. Without them, the balance seems all wrong. It's distracting.
Sorry?
So I decided to restore them, for old time's sake, shall we say. You are a stowaway, after all.
He thinks this is funny? Kinda. It's a little funny.
A little funny. Mr. Sholmes. This dream of changing Japan's legal system is over. Now they give 3 days to render a verdict for murder trials and allow the cross-examining of parents.
It's all his fault.
We do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Not at all, not at all. And though it's a little late, may I offer my sincere condolences? The loss of your companion is truly heartrending. I hope that you will be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor.
I'm afraid that won't be possible. We shall be disembarking at the next port in Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that's happened.
What? Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was the stowaway.
The terms of the study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. It was to be 1 lawyer and 1 assistant.
Was to be?
In the light of Mr. Asagi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead.
Oh no. I don't care for me, but... Poor Susato-san.
My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. This time I had it correct. All you require is 1 lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely.
But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer.
Qualifications, you
Anywhere.
say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be of little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid.
We promote Susato to lawyer? Hell yeah. Ryunosuke, you're the assistant.
I accept this terms.
Oh, but...
But anyway, the voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer.
Yes.
Miss Susato?
Yes?
Do you think perhaps I might be able to do it?
Well, no, the assistants never die. It's always the mentor that dies.
Yeah.
Like Mia or Kazuma.
Maya never dies. She just gets kidnapped a bunch.
Yeah. You have to, the key is to be, just to be the assistant. You want to be just good enough at law that you can help. Not good enough that you're confident, and therefore up for death.
and therefore murderable.
We can't risk Susato like that. Well, I guess we don't want... Well, could they even kidnap Susato? She'll just fucking judo throw him, though.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
She's fucking badass. She's got a sword. Kidnappers can't kidnap her. Exactly.
It's true. It's true.
Ah.
But you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, unless... Are you studying law?
No, I'm not.
I am
but...
now.
I'm sorry. In that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work.
Look at his
But as
fingers
I
clipped
said,
through his
there is
hat.
still more than a month before we reach England's shores.
Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I have a month in which to study, to learn what I must to become a lawyer in Great Britain.
Mr. Naruto.
That's ridiculous. Are you seriously suggesting anybody can learn all of that in just 40 days?
There's only one way to find out. I would work my fingers to the bone, Inspector, every single day. Will you let me try? And if, by the time we reach Great Britain, I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment is deemed appropriate.
But why put yourself in such a difficult position?
For Kazuma. He said that there was something he had to do in Great Britain, and that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. I can't let all that passion just come to nothing. And anyway, it's for my own benefit, too. I will become a lawyer. I have to. What do you say, Miss Susato?
I'll just hate him. He learned to be a lawyer in just 40 days and 40 nights.
Aw.
No. Hiya!
And then
Ends
I
up
got
on the
off
ground again.
Then we got off in Hong Kong and I went back to Japan.
I became a humble merchant, and I never had kids. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
So, what does our bespectacled inspector friend say? Are you serious?
One lawyer and one assistant. The numbers are indisputable.
No, it's madness.
Yet fascinating, wouldn't you agree?
Fascinating.
Duty and rules are the dull routine of existence that we all abhor. Give us interest. Give us fascination.
Speak for yourself.
Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. What matters is his character. No? And you've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes. From the early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion, despite the accusation of guilt, this man has shown resourcefulness, intelligence, and above all, courage.
Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice.
Inspector!
After all, I did just make a promise, didn't I? I said that I'd do anything at all to make up for my shortcomings here.
Oh, thank you, Inspector.
I feel like we've been on this boat for 10 years.
It's been so fucking long.
If you'll excuse me, I must pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think.
Steven,
need
I want to
discuss
point
what
out
do
real
next.
quick.
Yep.
We've only been in 2 rooms in the hallway.
I know. For like a
This
week.
whole fucking time. It's crazy.
I need to discuss what to do next and how best to make my report.
Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruto?
Yes, I'm going to try. I wonder, would you consider teaching me what I need to know? Everything about being a lawyer?
I would be delighted to help you. I am a judicial assistant, after all.
You're also in the hallway, which is kind of a room. It's like a long room with several doors. Thank you.
And Mr. Naruto? No, she's our assistant. False alarm, false alarm.
Everything's fine.
Everything's cool.
There's also still a whole other game after this, and if she died in this one, I would be shocked.
It'd be wild. I'd like you to take charge of this.
What? Me? Are you sure?
I'm sure it's what Kazuma-sama would have wanted. Its name is Karuma. It's a great sword that's been in the Asagi clan for generations.
Very well, I accept. I'll treasure it, always.
Fuck his relatives that would want to keep it. It's yours now.
We're halfway across the damn ocean. They can have it back when I get back.
We're not, though. Shanghai's not that far from Japan.
We're 2 weeks away from... We're half a month away.
Yeah, but remember I had that whole map conundrum?
So then, Miss Susato. It seems we'll be working together for some time to come yet.
Yeah, the ghost of Cosmos just standing there. It's like, wait, Susato, I said I wanted to be buried with Karuma. What are you doing?
My sword, give
Don't
it back.
give it to Ryunosuke. It's mine.
He doesn't need
Put it with me. I need it in case I'm a zombie. You want me to be a swordless zombie?
Ridiculous.
What kind of life is that? It would be an honor, Mr. Naruto. And for the next 40 days, I shan't grant you a single minute of freedom.
Oh no.
Oh, that was a new one.
Yeah.
We shall fill every spare moment with study.
Yes, that's exactly what I need. You won't be feeling that way in 40 days, my boy.
He's gonna wake up. Susato will be there. Be like, you slept an extra 10 minutes.
We're going to have to make that up.
We're going to have to make that up. You're gonna have to read 2 books at once. Throws him on the floor. But before we begin, I have an earnest favor to ask of you, too.
Goodness, what is it?
Oh, it's karma, huh? That's kind of fun. Please throw me to the ground 3 times.
What?
Oh, Susato, you're a little forward there. Karma is Von Karma's name in Japan.
Yeah.
Huh. This is like a weird callback. You slept an extra 30 seconds. I have to cut it. Ooh. I need a weapon for Afterlife. There's ghosts here. She's apologizing and offering that we throw her to the ground 3 times.
I don't know
In
how to
recompense.
judo throw you.
I should have never have doubted you. You're Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course you would never have done anything to hurt him. That should have been obvious to me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me. And no matter how upset I was feeling, it was completely unforgivable behavior.
No, you were in shock. You just found out about me stowing away, and the cabin door was locked from the inside.
No, I won't allow you to make excuses for me. Whatever the circumstances, I should have never thrown you, and not just 1, but 5 times.
That number keeps creeping up, doesn't it?
Please, you must. Just take hold of me and throw me. Do it. Don't even think about it.
No, I don't even know
Do
how.
it.
I've never
Do it,
thrown
idiot.
anyone in my life.
What are you scared? What are you
Very
scared, little
wise,
piss
Mr.
baby?
Naruto. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes.
I observed your throwing technique several times with great interest. I confess I was most impressed.
When did he see that?
I presume that would be a form of Japanese wrestling.
Oh, well, in a way. It's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of an ancient jujitsu technique.
Apparently it's called the Susato Takedown. It leaves your head swimming, believe me.
How beguiling. I am a practitioner of the combative arts myself. I am a somewhat accomplished boxer.
There he goes, dancing around again.
I wonder if you'd be so kind as to instruct me on the technique of your arresting throw.
Please let him. I want to see this so badly.
Yes, I'd be honored.
Then let us not dally. Demonstrate, my dear madam.
Oh, of course.
Please, no, wait. Demonstrate on him. Demonstrate on him. Oh,
Are
man.
you ready, Mr. Naruto?
Sorry?
Hiya!
Ah!
God is that? Hit him with the one time.
As you... Nope, that's you.
Yeah. As you can see, you throw from your abdomen. Did you clip yourself out of your chair in the...
Aye.
Steven?
Yeah, what's up?
You know I have to watch this all on a super delay, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
I can't react right away. Imagine if you threw her and she broke her spine. Imagine if you threw her and she just broke her neck and died, and you were like, "Not again!"
Son of a bitch.
As you can see, you throw from the abdomen.
Oh yes, arresting indeed. And that is what you term the Susato takedown, is it?
Actually, no. That was a Susato squash.
And then I blacked
Kazuma
out.
Yeah, Ryunosuke finally passes out from injuries.
In my groggy state of consciousness, a scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my mind. Sword. Karuma?
That's right, it's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asagi clan.
I can't believe you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking a katana on a study tour is more than a little irregular, surely.
A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Karma guides me. I truly believe that. Just as it will guide my heirs and the rest of the Asagi clan, and no one else.
So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two. Not that you would need much compelling.
On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. And I'll sacrifice anything to make it happen. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me.
Of course I will. Whatever it is, we'll see it through
You can
to
put
the end
it-
with you.
I guess you would put it in the Thursday?
Yeah, probably.
Where would you put clips?
Thursday's
Probably in the
Thursday
Thursday
stream's
night?
probably fine.
I guess
It's Ace
I
Attorney.
guess that's where we're putting Ace Attorney stuff.
Makes sense to me.
Those makes more sense than having them all over the place, I guess.
True. Maybe I should just make a channel for clips.
Maybe.
I read that. I forgot that I read it. Soup's casual would work too.
I knew you wouldn't let me down.
That important thing he had to do. I still don't know what that was. But I'm going to see the place for myself and work it out. In Great Britain's capital, London. End. Crash Course Candidate. Achievement unlocked. Adventure of the Runaway Room. What? I would love to know what that... Oh, it's a train. Or a trolley. Let's watch a little preview. Eh?
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, I believe
Who the hell's Herlock
that
Sholmes?
perhaps that case was indeed the prelude. The beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together.
Wait. But Mr. Wilson is dead.
He is.
Quite dead. Oh, look at him. Oh,
Anime.
look at him. He's such
He
a
is much
fancy
taller.
boy.
Is this really just
Fancy
a
boy.
railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an
Oh
enormous
no, they're
building
British.
They're British, but also with like a
Look at all
slight
the
Japanese
steam
accent,
locomotives.
which is cool.
This country is incredible.
Terry's lever watches.
Piccadilly.
Brian's Cocoa, the best in London.
I
How
feel
long
like
before they face
come true.
racism?
So this is
Immediately.
the capital of Great Britain.
So,
Oil
where
Sourcing.
to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
Like back out.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
Mouth on screen, by the way.
Where?
It's a small guy.
I actually don't know where the mouse is right now.
Visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
There was plenty of racism in the first case, that's true, Boko.
That's why I assumed there would be racism when we got to London. Heart of the racism. Now this is an improbable court setting, but I do like
I don't
it.
think this is a court. Alright, well. British
it not?
Supreme Court,
It seems to
Lord
be.
Chief
Yeah.
Justice's office. Okay, it's an office.
I want to be this judge too.
Is this office inside Big Ben?
Yes, it seems to be that way. It seems to be they erected bookshelves, candelabras, and suits of armor inside
Right
inside
behind
the
face of Big
London
Ben.
Tower.
And also with just
Well,
a-
Big Ben's
just-
the name of the bell.
Just
actually.
a big old fuck you chair. Also. All right. Well, next week we'll get to, or maybe tomorrow. Depends if Josh is up for it or not. I guess. We'll take a look at this bad
Tomorrow,
boy.
huh?
Otherwise, I'm just gonna. I'm just saved. I'm gonna watch that again tomorrow. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. All right. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. If not, for Ace Attorney, I'll probably play Digimon again tomorrow. Bye.